You are sitting there, staring at your phone, wondering if it's finally the right time to reach out. The silence has been deafening, but something inside you still believes there's unfinished business. What if I told you there is a perfect moment to break no contact, and not only that, but to do it in a way that makes them realize they lost something priceless? Not by pleading, not by pouring your heart out, but by showing up as someone so whole, so transformed, that they can't help but be drawn back in. Because here's the truth. You only break no contact when you no longer need their validation. When your life looks and feels so different that even they wouldn't recognize you. You don't come back with sentiment. You come back with strength. A message so subtle, it doesn't pull them. It pulls them in. And when you do it right, it doesn't feel like your idea. It feels like theirs. That's the shift. That's the power move. If you've ever asked yourself, when is the right time? Or how do I make them regret losing me? This is the moment you find out. Because the answer isn't in what you say. It's in who you've become. People often ask me, when is the right time to break no contact? And I always say, if you're still sitting there, heart in your hands, hoping that a single message from them will fix how you feel about yourself, you're not ready. I know that's a hard pill to swallow, because the truth is, we all crave that moment when someone validates our worth, when they finally reach out, say they miss us, or realize what they lost. But if your reason for ending no contact is secretly rooted in the hope that this time they'll finally make you feel chosen, then all you're doing is handing your power away again. Because here's the thing, breaking no contact is not about getting them back. It's about showing up as someone who no longer needs them back. There's a difference between reaching out from a place of strength and reaching out from a place of survival. When you're still emotionally tied to the version of you that got hurt, ignored, or rejected, your actions, no matter how casual they look, are fueled by fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear of losing your only shot, fear that no one else will measure up. And when fear drives the wheel, the outcome rarely changes. I've seen it happen 100 times. You think a few weeks of silence is enough. You miss them, you feel lonely, and in a weak moment, you send that text. And maybe they respond. Maybe you even meet up. But before long, you find yourself right back in the same dynamic because you're still the same version of you who got walked away from. You haven't actually moved on emotionally. You've just paused the game long enough to try again, hoping for different rules. But that's not how real power works. Real power is when the silence doesn't hurt anymore. It's when their absence doesn't echo through your day. It's when you don't fantasize about how to win them back, but instead you're focused on how you're winning yourself back. It's when you wake up, and for the first time in weeks, or maybe months, you realize, I didn't think about them today. That's the moment. That's the signal. When your peace doesn't depend on whether or not they miss you, you're ready. Because now, you're not trying to reconnect for validation. You're doing it from clarity. You have to ask yourself, am I reaching out because I want connection or because I need closure? And more importantly, can I handle the outcome even if it's not what I want? Because if hearing I've moved on, or worse, getting ignored again, would send you spiraling, you're not in control yet. You're still looking for something outside of you to patch up something inside. And if that's the case, hold your silence a little longer. Let that space do its job. Let it be the mirror that shows you what still needs healing. Silence isn't punishment, it's self-protection. It's space to recalibrate. And when used wisely, it becomes your most powerful move. It forces you to become someone new. Not out of spite, not for revenge, not to prove something, but because you start seeing your own value again. And once you do, you stop needing someone else to point it out. And here's what's beautiful. When you truly reach that place, you won't need to break no contact. You'll choose to. or you won't. Either way, it's not emotional, it's not dramatic, it's just a decision. You might send a message, not because you're hoping to win them over, but because you know that even if nothing comes of it, you'll still be okay. You're whole, with or without their response. That's when everything changes. That's when they feel it too. Because energy doesn't lie. When you reach out from a grounded place, they sense it. They don't feel you pulling. They feel curiosity, confidence, calm. And ironically, that's the moment where people often start chasing. Not because you manipulated the situation, but because you let go of the need for it to play out a certain way. You stop trying to make them your source of happiness. You found it in yourself. So if you're wondering when to break no contact, wait until you no longer need to. Let silence grow you until you're strong enough to speak without breaking. You don't reach back when you're stuck. You reach back when you've evolved into someone even they wouldn't recognize. That contrast, that transformation is what creates real impact. It's magnetic. Because here's the truth, people don't chase what they've already figured out. They chase what feels new, what feels like it's slipped out of their grasp, what makes them feel like they've missed something extraordinary. When we think about breaking no contact, most people do it from a place of emotion. They're hurting, they miss the other person, and they convince themselves that if they just reach out at the right moment, they'll get everything back. But all that really does is hand power to the past. You're showing up as the same person you were when things ended, hoping for a different result. But that's not how attraction or reconciliation works. If the dynamic between you hasn't changed, if you haven't changed, then the story just repeats itself. They already know how that story ends. And if you come back the same, they'll treat you the same. Maybe you'll get a warm response. Maybe you'll get a, hey, I've missed you too, but it won't last because familiarity reignite desire. Growth does. So here's the bar. Your life needs to look and feel unrecognizable to the old you. That's the goal before you even think about breaking no contact. You need to become someone who no longer needs the past to validate your worth because you've already built it from within. When someone who used to know you sees that version of you, the one who's been busy evolving instead of waiting, they can't help but stop and think, wait, what happened? Who is this person now? That curiosity is powerful. It's what draws people back in. Not pity, not guilt, not nostalgia, curiosity, intrigue, surprise. And all of those things are byproducts of real change. You want to know when the perfect time to break no contact is? It's when you genuinely don't care if they respond or not. Not because you're pretending to be indifferent, but because you've built a life so full, so rich, that their reply is a bonus, not a necessity. That's when your energy shifts. That's when the old patterns break. Because now you're no longer reaching out from emptiness, you're reaching out from overflow. Let's be real. When you're in that space, your message doesn't come with pressure. It doesn't scream, please want me again. It says, hey, I've been living. I've been changing. And I remembered something that made me smile. That kind of message hits differently. It doesn't beg, it inspires. It doesn't chase, it invites. Because you're not chasing them anymore. You're living your life. And they're either going to step up and meet you in that new chapter, or they'll realize they're no longer a part of the story. And here's the beautiful part. They feel that shift. Even in one sentence, they can feel that you're no longer sitting around hoping to get the past back. They sense that you're in motion, that you're moving forward, and that maybe, just maybe, they've missed their seat on the ride. That's the kind of tension you want. Not emotional chaos, not arguments or long paragraphs trying to explain yourself. You want the kind of subtle, unspoken pressure that makes them realize you've changed the game and they're no longer holding the cards. But you don't get to that place by waiting. You get there by working on yourself, on your boundaries, on your goals, on your happiness, on your identity outside of them. So that when the day comes and you do break no contact, you're doing it as someone who's whole, someone who doesn't need to be chosen anymore because they already chose themselves. And that's what makes someone beg for you. Not manipulation, not silence games, not trying to trigger their jealousy. What makes them crave you again is seeing the you they never saw before, the you they never thought they'd lose. And that version only shows up when you stop focusing on them and start focusing on you. The perfect time to break no contact isn't about timing at all. It's about transformation. Let the change in you speak so loudly they have no choice but to listen. You don't reach out because you're lonely. You don't reach out because you miss them at 2 a.m. when everything's quiet and your mind wanders to what used to be. That version of you wants comfort, not clarity. And let me tell you, if you're reaching out for comfort, you're only going to reopen the same wound you've been trying so hard to heal. You break no contact when you're in a place of strength. When your message isn't a cry for attention, but a calm expression from someone who has grown. And this is where most people go wrong. They reach out with this emotional storm, these long, vulnerable messages filled with memories, apologies, or pleas to talk. But that energy doesn't pull someone back in. It pushes them away because it screams, I haven't moved on. I'm still waiting for you to validate me. You want to know what actually grabs someone's attention? It's when you reach out without emotional heaviness, when you're not trying to prove anything, when your energy says, I'm good either way. That's what shifts the power dynamic. That's what makes them stop and think, wait a second, something's changed. And that's the key. Your message needs to carry power, not pressure. Not this overbearing weight of unresolved emotion. It needs to come from someone who has already processed the pain, already done the healing, and doesn't need anything from this exchange. You're not sending this message to get them back. You're sending it because you're curious, maybe even open, but you're detached from the outcome. That's what makes you magnetic. People don't chase what's chasing them. They chase what they sense could walk away at any moment. Now, here's what that might actually look like. It's not a 4-paragraph essay about your journey, your mistakes, or how much you miss them. It's a short, composed message. Maybe a playful comment about something they find interesting, something that reminds them of a shared moment, but with no emotion strings attached. You don't try to force a deep conversation. You don't dump your heart out. You just plant a seed, and then you walk away. And if they respond, great. If they don't, you're still good. That's the energy. Because here's the truth. They can feel it. They can feel if you're reaching out because you're spiraling. They can feel if your self-worth is hanging in the balance of whether or not they reply. And they can absolutely feel it when you're just centered, when you're at peace and you're not using this message to fill a void. That contrast is powerful because chances are they remember the version of you who was anxious, maybe even desperate, the version of you who was trying so hard to make things work. When you break no contact from a place of peace, they're forced to reevaluate. They're not expecting it. And it catches them off guard, not because you're doing anything dramatic, but because you're not doing what they've come to expect. So many people ask, what do I say? But that's not the real question. The real question is, who are you when you say it? Are you the healed, calm, confident version of yourself? Or are you still waiting for this person to tell you that you matter? Because no line, no perfectly crafted message will make them want you if the energy behind it screams insecurity. This is why I say reach out from strength, not sentimentality. Don't reach out because you miss the old days. Don't reach out because you're replaying the highlight reel of your relationship in your head. Reach out because you've built a life you're proud of, and from that place, you're open, not attached, not desperate, not dependent, open. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. It's better to stay in no contact a little longer and keep growing than to reach out prematurely and sabotage your progress. Let your silence be a message in itself, one that says, I'm doing just fine without you. And when you finally do reach out, let it feel light. Let it feel unexpected. Let it feel like you're not trying to start something again, but simply connecting effortlessly. That's when they lean in. That's when they wonder what changed. That's when the dynamic flips and they start to chase you. Because the truth is, when you're in your power, you're not hoping to be chosen. You're simply allowing someone the chance to meet you where you are, and if they don't, you're already gone. You're not throwing open the door, you're cracking a window. Subtlety is power. Make them wonder. Make them chase. When we talk about breaking no contact, most people think of it as this grand gesture. They imagine pouring their heart out, making some long speech or sending a vulnerable message, hoping to reignite something. But the truth is, when you reappear in someone's life after space has been created, you don't want to come in hot. You want to come in calm, cool, and quietly confident. Think about it this way. When someone walks out of your life, or you walk away to reclaim your power, there's a vacuum. And in that silence, in that absence, something interesting happens. They start to remember the parts of you that stood out, the laughter, the energy, the way you made them feel. And in that vacuum, curiosity grows. So when you do reach out, the goal isn't to fill that vacuum too quickly. It's to give them just enough to keep leaning in. Most people make the mistake of trying to force the connection back open. They say too much. They ask too many questions. They try to get answers, closure, or clarity. But when you do that, you're not pulling them in, you're pushing them away. Why? Because it reeks of need. And nothing kills attraction faster than a need for validation. But when you send a message that's light, subtle, and non-invasive, it creates tension, the good kind. It signals, hey, I'm good, just thought of you. No agenda. You're not begging for attention. You're offering a moment. And in that moment, they get to decide how they show up. That's where the magic happens. Let me give you an example. Instead of saying, I miss you, can we talk? You might say, just walked past that bakery we stumbled into that time. Still can't believe you convinced me to try that weird green pastry. That's it. That's the message. No follow-up. No how have you been. Just a light tap on the window. What does a message like that do? It triggers a memory, not a demand. It invites a smile, not pressure. And it leaves space for them to come toward you if they choose. And that's what you want. You're not opening the door wide and standing there with your heart in your hands. You're cracking the window, letting just enough of your energy back into their life for them to feel it again, to want more of it. Remember, real power is in the restraint, the version of you that knows how to hold back, that knows how to leave them wondering, why now? Why just that? What does it mean? That version is deeply attractive. It shows you're no longer playing the same emotional game. You've evolved. You're not seeking closure anymore. You're not needing a reply to sleep at night. You've already built a full life in their absence. And now, if they're lucky, they get to experience a sliver of it again. But they have to earn their place this time. You're no longer asking for the old thing to be revived. You're giving them the opportunity to approach a new version of you. One that doesn't operate on desperation, but choice. There's a psychological truth to this as well. People value what they have to pursue. If it feels too easy, if you instantly make yourself available the second they show a little interest, it devalues the experience. But if you give just a glimpse and hold your ground, it activates their desire to come closer, to engage, to chase even. You're flipping the script. They used to be the one that could walk away, knowing you'd still be there. Now you're the one who walked away. And you came back, not with apologies or longing, but with presence, with grace, with a small reminder of what made you unforgettable. And if they do respond, Great. Keep it light, keep it playful. Resist the urge to dig into the past or jump ahead to the future. Stay in the moment, make them earn the deeper version of you again. That's how you stay in your power. And if they don't respond, that's fine too, because that message wasn't about them. It was about you stepping into your confidence, showing you can extend a hand without losing your center. And that's a win in itself. So don't knock on the door with your heart in your hand. Just crack the window, let a little breeze in, and watch what happens next. Let me tell you something powerful that most people overlook when they decide to break no contact. You don't need to explain everything. In fact, the less you explain, the more powerful you become. We live in a time where we feel the urge to narrate our every move, to justify our silence, to make someone understand our absence. But here's the truth. Real transformation doesn't announce itself. It just shows up differently. When you finally reach out or allow that door to crack, open a little, it shouldn't be with a laundry list of where you've been emotionally or what you've discovered about yourself in the midnight hours of heartbreak. That's not how attraction is reignited. That's not how you make someone feel the loss of you. If anything, too much explanation dilutes the very power you've built during your time apart. Let mystery be your wingman. See, there's something incredibly magnetic about restraint, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that shows self-respect. When someone hasn't heard from you in a while, they start to imagine, they wonder, and in that wondering, they begin to feel. They recall the moments they underestimated you. They remember what your presence felt like. They revisit the times they thought you'd always be there, only to realize you're not. That emotional vacuum is the seed of desire. You can't trigger that by over-explaining or dumping a monologue about your healing journey. Now I get it. You're tempted to text them all the insights you've gained, to tell them how you've grown, to let them know you're not the same person. But if you truly aren't the same person, you won't need to say it. They'll feel it in your silence, in your poise, in your energy, when you finally do reconnect. Mystery creates space for that. And space creates curiosity. And when someone is curious, again, they're already halfway invested. Remember, what made you attractive in the beginning wasn't how much you shared. It was what you held back. It was the intrigue. The little moments where they had to lean in, ask questions, get to know you. It was not knowing everything about you that drew them in. That hasn't changed. If anything, now more than ever, mystery is your advantage. Because after time apart, if you show up over-explaining, they assume you've been sitting there thinking about them the whole time. And that kills the power dynamic. They don't need to know that you missed them. They don't need to know that you cried. They don't even need to know how much you've healed. What they need to know, what they need to feel, is that something has shifted and they no longer have access to you the way they used to. Let that be the message. Let that silence carry weight. When you finally do say something, make it light, casual, confident, but most importantly, make it incomplete. Let your words spark interest, not give away the whole story. You want them asking themselves, what's different about them? You want them rereading that message, wondering why it feels so intentional, so calm, so far from the version of you they thought they knew. When you overshare, you rob them of the experience of discovery. When you stay in mystery, you offer them the chance to rediscover you on your terms, not theirs. There's something else that happens when you withhold over-explaining. It puts them in a position to step forward. If you leave space, they will either move into it or realize what they've lost. But when you fill the silence with stories, explanations, or subtle pleas for connection, you do all the emotional work for them. That's not attractive. That's exhausting. And more importantly, it's a disservice to the strength you've built while you were gone. Your silence was sacred. Don't break it with noise. Break it with intention. Break it with elegance. Break it when it serves you, not just your hope for reconciliation. The best messages are the ones that don't say everything. They make the other person lean in. They open a door just enough to let someone peek inside, but not enough for them to walk right back in without effort. So when you finally do reach out, don't tell them how much you've changed. Be the changed. Don't explain why you've been quiet, and let them feel it. Let mystery do the heavy lifting. Let curiosity stir in their mind until they feel the need to reconnect, to reach, to understand this new version of you. Because when someone has to work to figure you out again, that's when you become unforgettable. You see, the most powerful kind of message you can ever send is the one that feels effortless, not because you didn't care, but because it comes from a place of self-assurance. You're not pressing send because you need them back. You're pressing send because you're at peace with whatever happens next. That's when the energy shifts. When you do decide to break no contact, and remember that decision itself needs to come from strength, not scarcity. The way you reach out matters more than you think. You don't send a paragraph detailing how much you've missed them or how every song reminds you of their laugh. That's not magnetism. That's pressure. That puts them in the driver's seat while you're left wondering whether they'll reply, whether they still care, whether you just gave away your power all over again. The move you want to make, the message you want to craft, is one that opens a door just enough for curiosity to creep in. Think of it like leaving the room scented with something familiar but not quite nameable. It should spark a memory, a feeling. It should whisper, I'm still me, but I've changed. And here's the trick. It has to feel like their idea. The best outreach doesn't say, I want you back. It doesn't even say, I miss you. It says, I'm living my life, and I happen to think of you. That's it. Just enough for their brain to start connecting dots, to start wondering who you've become in the silence. Let's say you send a simple message like, hey, I saw something the other day that reminded me of our road trip through Arizona. Hope you're doing well. Now, what have you done there? You've anchored your message in a shared memory, something you both experienced. That creates warmth, but you're not asking a question. You're not asking to meet up. You're not even asking for a reply. That's where the power is. You've created a moment. You've nudged their mind. Now they have to decide what to do with it. And when they do respond, because chances are they will, you keep it light. You don't jump into old patterns. You don't rush back into being their emotional crutch. You don't go straight to the late night phone calls or the remember when we used to.